Can Jaylen Brown become a superstar? Let's get into this. Quickly before we start the video, if you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more NBA content just like this one, hit that subscribe button and that post notification bell. Anyways, back to the video. Jaylen Brown was drafted number 3 overall in the 2016 NBA draft, where originally that draft pick was supposed to go to the Brooklyn Nets, but in that Kevin Garnett-Paul Pierce trade, it actually ended up going to the Celtics, and the Celtics ended up picking Brown at number 3. Coming into the NBA, Jaylen Brown definitely had pretty high expectations. Being drafted at the number 3 overall spot, a lot of people saw Jaylen Brown as a fantastic defender, but also on the offensive side of the ball, he was definitely a pretty good offensive player with definite upside on the offensive side of the ball. And ever since Jaylen Brown has come into the NBA, his defense really translated very well. As soon as he got to the NBA, he was instantly seen as an amazing defender and a guy who could potentially be one of the top defenders in the NBA. And there was definitely a lot of excitement because when you look at how good Jaylen Brown actually was on the defensive side of the ball and the position that he's playing, and you look at all the best players we have in the NBA, some examples of LeBron James, Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, all these guys are two-way wings, and the fact that Jaylen Brown already in his rookie season or even his second season was already a great defender in the NBA, you would expect him to only get better on that side of the ball. And although he didn't come out of the gates completely amazing on the offensive side of the ball, there was definitely something he was showing there, and obviously you would expect him to improve upon that. So a lot of people were very excited to see what Jaylen Brown actually could be going forward. But in Jaylen Brown's first 3 seasons, he was definitely very good on the defensive side of the ball, as I mentioned, but he wasn't progressing as quickly and as great as a lot of people expected him to be. And after having very high expectations of potentially being an all-star and maybe even a superstar going forward, he was only a guy who was a pretty good starter at that point. He was averaging anywhere from 13 to 15 points per game, which is definitely a really good level starter and a great defender, of course, as well, but he wasn't necessarily what a lot of people expected him to become once he got into the NBA. And especially after his teammate Jason Tatum completely broke out right away after also being drafted number 3 overall, a lot of people saw Jaylen Brown as just a very nice young piece next to the real superstar who was Jason Tatum. But the one thing about Jaylen Brown is even though on the offensive side of the ball, he wasn't necessarily completely breaking out, he was just decent at that point, you could tell during each and every offseason, he was really working tirelessly on his offensive game to really have that breakout season for him. And finally, in the 2019 NBA season, that finally came for him. Jaylen Brown went from averaging 13 points per game in the 2018 season to all the way up to 20.3 points per game in the 2019 season, while also getting his efficiency numbers up, which is a very, very big thing as well. And this was the real breakout season that everybody was expecting and waiting for from Jaylen Brown. But let's quickly break down Jaylen Brown's game on the offensive side of the ball to really see how he actually broke out. So starting with Jaylen's 3-point shooting ability, coming into the NBA, this was definitely not one of his strong suits, and once he was really coming into the NBA, that was definitely something he was working tirelessly on, but he was never really a great 3-point shooter or even a good 3-point shooter. But in that 2019 NBA season, he really got his efficiency numbers up, and he was now able to hit catch and shoot threes, which he was kind of able to hit before, but the biggest difference was he was actually able to create for himself from that 3-point range. Now he's able to do side steps, step backs, coming off a screen for a pull-up 3-point shot. He was definitely very effective from that 3-point range now, which is one of the biggest differences from previous seasons. But now moving on to Jaylen's mid-range shooting ability, this is definitely something that he came into the NBA with, and he had a pretty effective shot from that mid-range area. But of course, Jaylen can hit that pull-up mid-range shot, that catch and shoot mid-range shot, but one of my favorite things and something that he really added in that 2019 NBA season to not only get his efficiency numbers up, but his actual scoring numbers up as well, is that post turnaround fadeaway. I just personally think that's such an effective move, and all the superstars that are in that wing size, basically if you're 6'6" and up, you should really have that in your arsenal in my opinion. It's such an effective shot, it's almost impossible to block, and it's also almost impossible to get a real good contest on it. And when you look around the NBA and all the best players we've seen, especially a guy like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, who really made a living off that post turnaround fadeaway shot, I think it's just such an effective move. And it was really good to see that Jaylen Brown actually added it to his game. And coming all the way to the basket, Jaylen Brown definitely had a floater, which I guess you can kind of count in his mid-range shot, and that's something he also added to his game, which is pretty nice. But now talking about Jaylen's finishing ability, this is also something that he kind of came into the NBA with. We all know that Jaylen is very, very athletic in this league, and he could definitely get some posterizing dunks as we've seen over the past few seasons, but something that he does very effectively when he gets to the basket is he doesn't always look to dunk over you every single time. He also has a very nice layup package, and he uses his athleticism pretty effectively in that layup package, and he can kind of hang in the air and just finish around taller and better defenders, which is something that is very good and shows a lot of growth on his part as well. Because a lot of guys who have a ton of athleticism just look to dunk over the defender every single time when they get into the basket. But the difference between other levels in the NBA is you're not going to be able to do that each and every time. Of course, there's some players in the NBA that are just crazy athletic, and I think Jaylen Brown is one of those guys that are just very, very athletic and can definitely get posterizing dunks from time to time. But it's the NBA and you're not going to do it every single time, and that's something that Jaylen Brown really recognizes, and that's why he really added some other parts to his offensive game in terms of his finishing ability, which is very great to see, and a big reason why he's really been so efficient as well. And Jaylen Brown has definitely never been a great passer throughout his whole career, but especially in the past few seasons, ever since he really broke out, I think he kind of recognized that he's getting double teams a lot more and sometimes even triple teams if he's really on fire. So he kind of sees the floor a little bit better in terms of his passing and playmaking ability, and if he's getting doubled or triple teamed, he's usually going to find the wide open guy. But besides that, he's definitely not a great passer and playmaker, which he hasn't really been throughout his whole career, but hopefully I would expect him to get better in this aspect of his game as well. But now at this point, after having two very, very good seasons, averaging over 20 points per game, and obviously being an amazing defender on that side of the ball as well, there's not too many flaws to Jaylen Brown's game, and at this point, you could definitely call him an all-star in this league. I think that's very clear. But the question of the video now is, can Jaylen Brown actually become a superstar in this NBA going forward? I think Jaylen Brown's a very, very good young player at this point, and you can honestly make the case that Jaylen Brown is already a superstar in this league. But in my opinion, to truly call him a superstar, first of all, I would like to see a few more seasons of this under his belt, but also I would like to see his numbers tick up just a bit. Every single season, I would like to see him get better and better, which I think he definitely can be, and he has been showing ever since he got into the NBA. But if he can get his points per game up to around 24, 25 points per game, I would definitely clearly say this guy's a superstar in this league, and I definitely think this guy can get there. Ever since he's gotten into the NBA, as I mentioned, he's gotten better each and every season, so that really shows the true work ethic that he's really putting in. And based on that, I would have no reason to believe that Jaylen Brown wouldn't be able to get to that 24, 25 point per game mark and really become a true superstar in the league. But we'll see what happens going forward. Obviously, one of the biggest keys to actually determining which player is a superstar in this league, you really do have to win, and the Boston Celtics have been winning over the past few seasons. Of course, this previous season was a down year for them, but overall, I think they're going to be fine as well going forward. So the biggest thing to see from Jaylen Brown is if he can keep up this consistently, at least above that 20 points per game number, and as well as even extending that to around 24, 25 points per game. We'll see what happens though going forward with Jaylen Brown. I definitely have a ton of confidence in him going forward. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys personally think that Jaylen Brown could become a superstar in this NBA? Or maybe you already think he's a superstar in the NBA, or do you not think he will become a superstar going forward? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out, guys.